welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be filming. I feel like I haven't filmed in forever, but I know I've been slacking. You know, some days it's just like... Anyways, so for today's video, I did a cut crease tutorial. A couple of you guys asked me to do a tutorial on a cut crease look, and so I'm here to give y'all what you want. If you're interested in seeing how I got this look, just keep on watching. Also, PSA, I kind of shaved my eyebrow. I know y'all can tell. It looks a little wonky. I'm sorry, but... So I brought y'all pretty close in. Very up close and personal. But I did that so I could just keep the main focus on my eye, and I'm going to be doing my other eye and my base off camera. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is prime my eyelids, and I'm just going to use a foundation for this because I lost my concealer. I'm going to be using the Milani, it's like a foundation and a concealer, like 2-in-1. And I'm just going to prime my eyelid with Real Technique sponge, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, you can really use like whatever you want to prime your eyelids. You can use a concealer, a foundation, an eyeshadow primer, whatever works best for you. I just prefer a concealer or a foundation because that's honestly the only thing I've ever used. But yeah. When I'm doing eyeshadow, I usually use the e.l.f. 24-Hour Hydrating Camo Concealer. It's probably my favorite, but again, I lost it unfortunately. So sad. So once your base is on, you're gonna go ahead and take whatever eyeshadow palette you want. Today, I'm gonna be using the Morphe X James Charles palette. You can use whatever eyeshadows you want, but for today's video, I'm gonna keep it very neutral and stick with like warm tones just for the sake of this video. So first step, I'm gonna go ahead and take a small fluffy brush like this one. I'm gonna take this shadow right here. I'm gonna take that shadow and pack it onto my outer corner just to get the shadow on the lid. Once that step is done, I'm going to go ahead and start to buff it out just a tiny bit. I'm just getting that same brush and just dabbing around the corners just to start to diffuse it just a little bit. Once that step is done, I'm going to take a bigger, fluffier brush. I'm going to take this burnt orange shade right here. I'm going to go ahead and take that and start to blend out this brown color right here. I'm just going to start at the very corners of the brown shade and kind of start to diffuse them and blend them out. One tip that I have is to hold your brush at the very end so it's lighter on your eye and doesn't create such a hard pressure on your eyelid. So again, just going back with that shade and blending the two together. Also, don't be afraid to sit and blend your eyeshadows for a while. It is a process and it does take time. You just have to be patient. Next, I'm going to be taking a even bigger, fluffier brush, like this one. And I'm going to take that same burnt orange shade, but I'm just going to take a little bit to buff out the edges of that shadow that I just placed on. With a very, very light hand, I'm just going over that shadow just to make the edges look a bit softer. So what I'm going to do is take that first brush that I used with that same first eyeshadow that I picked up, and I'm going to pack it on the eyeshadow. Oh my gosh. I'm going to add some more of that first shadow that I used just to bring back that color because it kind of got taken away in the blending. And then I'm going to go back in with the second brush and blend that edge. So once you have it blended out to your liking, you're going to go ahead and take a flat eyeshadow brush. I just have this one right here. And I'm going to take some of that foundation that I was talking about earlier, and I'm going to start at this very inner corner of my eye, and I'm going to take it all around my eyelid and stop about 3/4 on my eyelid. It is very, very important to really take your time in this step so you can get a very seamless and a pretty and neat circular shape for your cut crease. So one step that I have is to take your foundation or concealer or eyeshadow primer, whatever you're using, and placing it on your eyelid. And when you look up, if it goes higher up than your crease shape, the shape that you created, you should probably consider bringing the line up a little higher than what you already have it at. This is so whenever you place an eyeshadow or set the concealer or foundation that you used to create your cut crease, the eyeshadow on top doesn't transfer down or vice versa. What I'm going to do now is take the rest of the foundation that I have and tap it onto my eyelid. Once you're done with that, I suggest you take your finger or a sponge and just blend out that concealer to create a seamless blend between the concealer and the eyeshadow. If you mess up and go a little higher than your line, it's okay, you can just fix it with whatever you're using. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead and take another clean flat brush. I'm going to be taking this first shade in the James Charles palette and packing it onto that wet foundation that I just placed on my eye. So what I'm doing now is taking more foundation and going over some spots to where it kind of got a little messy and just cleaning them up. Once I'm satisfied with the look, I'm going to go ahead and take that very first brush that I used again, this brush right here, and I'm going to go back in with that first shade that I used. I'm going to be packing it back onto the outer corner of my eyelid. Once I've added it back, I'm going to take the second brush again and go in with that same second shadow that I used. So what I'm going to be doing with that second shade that I use is blending the two shadows together just to create a seamless blend between the lighter shade and the darker shade. I highly suggest starting out with a tiny little bit of eyeshadow and building it up, because if you start with too much, then it's harder to take away than it is to add, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to be doing now is taking this fluffy brush and I'm going to be combining these two shadows right here. And what I'm going to be doing is creating a more natural blend between this first nude shade that I used and this darker colors that I blended earlier. Then I'm going to get that flat eyeshadow brush that I just used with this nude shade, and I'm going to pick some up again and reinforce that line that I just created. One tip that I have is to really take your time in blending your eyeshadows, and it's really up to you to try and create the desired look that you want. It can take so much time and so much patience to get to your desired look. Just sit and take your time and just keep on practicing. So now that this portion of the eyeshadow is done, I'm going to go ahead and put some eyeliner and some lashes on, and I'll be right back. So my lashes and liner is on, and I'm kind of pretty much very obsessed with how that look came out. Let's take a minute. She's pretty or whatever. So what I'm going to show y'all now is basically how I do the eyeshadow under my eye. I always have to add eyeshadow on my lower lash line because it just pulls the looks together for me, and I think it looks best on my eyes, so yeah. So what I'm going to do is basically create the same look on my lower lash line, minus the cut crease and everything. I'm going to take that first shade that I used on my eyelid, and I'm going to take that on that kind of fluffy, kind of flat eyeshadow brush that I used earlier, and I'm going to start that on the outer corner of my lower lash line and just buff that right on that outer corner. I'm going to take it just a little bit onto my eyelid and just blend the two shadows together. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to take a fluffier brush, and I'm going to take that burnt orange shade that I used on my eyelid and taking a little tiny bit of it and just buffing out that darker brown shade that I used. Once I'm satisfied with the gradient of the eyeshadow, I'm done. I'm just gonna add some lower lash mascara and I'll be right back. So once that I've added my bottom lash mascara, I would say the cut crease portion of the eye is done. I would say it came out really cute. It's super natural, but you can still wear this absolutely anywhere. You can honestly play it up however you want. You can do however many colors. You honestly just have to really look at it and see what suits your eye shape the best, because not everything works for everyone, and it just depends on what your personal preference is and what you like. I'm gonna go ahead and do my other eye and my base off camera, so I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back with the final look. If you guys liked today's video, please give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you learned something new or if you learned a step that you usually didn't do, that I did, that you don't. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm such a horrible explainer. Anyways, subscribe for more content in the future, and until next time, bye guys!